Good morning, everybody. My name is Nikki Parr. I'm the Associate Director of Strategic Initiatives here at Economic Ventures. For those of you that aren't familiar with WEV, we are a nonprofit that is based in Santa Barbara and Ventura counties, and we provide training, consulting, and loans to entrepreneurs, primarily women, actually small business owners. And we've been in existence for close to 30 years, about 29 years. And if you do want to learn more about us, please visit our website, which is www.weveonline.org, and please sign up for our newsletter so that you can learn about ongoing trainings, events, and loan products that we have available as well right now. So as you may or may not know, we've been doing regular WeaveWorks webinars since the pandemic started. And we try and make those very relevant to you as business owners. And one of the biggest topics that is impacting small business owners is how retail has shifted, and what can you do as a small business owner to optimize this new environment and maximize revenue and continue to keep your clients coming in and spending money. And I have been fortunate enough to watch a webinar that Dan Jablon's presented about 2 months ago, I think, to the Cameo and Small Business Majority organizations here in California. And he blew me away with his knowledge. He is actually described by a colleague on LinkedIn as probably the most gifted retail guru in the US, if not the world. And how lucky are we to have him with us here this morning? He's the owner of the Retail Smart Guys, which is a retail consulting group based down in, I think, Westlake in LA. He's hugely talented. He's also an actor, so I think we can expect some entertaining presentation this morning, but mostly it's going to be an extremely informative one where he will share his incredible wisdom with us and with you. And I would just encourage you to take in as much as you can, ask questions through the Q&A, and Dan will let us know how he prefers to answer them. Chat, say hi in the chat, tell us who you are, where you're from, what your business is, and I'm gonna now be quiet and hand over the reins to Dan.
Okay. Wow. Well, you know, after that introduction, it's going to be hard for me to get out of this room because my head won't fit through the doorway. But thank you very much for all of that. I'm going to share my screen here in a moment and let you guys take a look at the presentation I put together for you, so we can go through that. Julie says she has no audio, so I'm not sure what to tell you about that, Julie. You might check your speakers. And check your audio settings. If you kind of, with a little microphone, there's a little up arrow there and you can maybe look at that, okay? Oh good, Julie can hear us now, great. So, all right, technical issues aside, if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to try not to look at the chat during the presentation because I have a lot of information to share with you. I want to make sure that I get through all of that in a timely manner. We are going to send out all of this information afterwards, okay? And I also have some other stuff to share with you that we'll send out to you afterwards as well. So lots of stuff to share with you, lots to get through. So put your questions in the chat and I will get to them as best as I can, okay? All right, here we go. Let's try and share our screen. And I don't know if I'm sharing my screen. Let's go share. Boom. Okay. And all right. Can you guys see this, by the way? Just to make sure that we're okay. Well, I'm going to assume we are. If you guys can't see it, then someone yell out and let me know. Okay. But okay, here we go. I think. Chat for yes. Okay, good. All right, good. All right. Here we go. So First, a little bit about me. Okay, I am the president of a consulting group called Retail Smart Guys. Between all of us in Retail Smart Guys, we have a little over 40 years of retail experience. We've all either worked in retail or owned stores or been buyers for stores or managers for stores or service retail. So we all kind of live and breathe and love retail. You know, retail is one of those things I think you guys would probably all agree. No, you can't go walk into a sixth grade class and say, how many of you would like to manage a five-store chain of retail stores when you grow up, you know? But people sort of fall into it, but then you kind of get a love for it, and then there you are, right? And that certainly happened for me. I started in retail when I was 17. And I myself have been in retail for a little over 40 years now, so you can do the math and figure out where I am. But all that to say, you know, I've worked with all kinds of retailers, anywhere from the big, you know, monsters, the Walmarts of the world and that kind of thing, down to the individual single store mom and pop guys. And I have to say that independent retail is by far my favorite place to be. It's the most creative, it's the most fun, and it's the easiest place to affect change and make interesting things happen. So I'm delighted to be here and be with you guys and see what we can make happen for you. Okay, and yes, some people have asked me about this, and it was nice enough to be put into my introduction. I have been on TV. I was Larry David's lawyer in Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's a picture of me with Larry down there in the lower left. And more recently, I did a commercial for Facebook. That's a picture of me as a boring professor. So there you go. You know, that doesn't mean that it means that I can I will do this presentation without reading the slides to you. Have you ever been to one of those presentations where like it's a PowerPoint and they're just reading the slides and you want to just sort of take your own life at that moment in time, right? So I try to make it a little bit more interesting like that and a little bit more applicable, okay? All right, so things you've already heard, I'm not going to say again, right? I don't know about you, but I'm a little sick about hearing that these are unprecedented times, that retail's never going to be the same, that not everyone's going to survive, that it's all different now, blah, 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 that kind of stuff, okay? You've heard all that before. It's true and it isn't true. I will tell you this, at this moment in time, as I deliver this to you, one of the things that we're actually seeing is that there's a really interesting, healthy thing happening for independent retail, which is that because of changes to the supply chain right now, people are discovering that they can sell close to what they did previously, but with much lower inventories. And, you know, if there's one message I need to get out to you today, if there's one thing I want to say to you that's going to make a difference right now, it's that for the last half of this year and into spring of next year, you've got to turn your inventory faster. Okay, I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but that's starting to happen just sort of naturally, just because we didn't accept shipments for a while the stores were closed and while the vendors were closed. And now we're sort of being very cautious about what we bring in. And I think that's very healthy, okay, in terms of the merchandise stuff. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I just, you know, all this stuff about it's unprecedented times, retail will never be the same again. Not everybody's going to make it. I just don't want to say it anymore. You know, let's focus on what we need to do, okay? So what do we need to do, okay? The first thing I want to tell you is this is the time to get excited, to get pumped up. And why do I say that? Because right now we need that level of excitement and energy to bring the store back. So as you are reopening, if you haven't opened already, or if you're open now, okay, if you've done a soft opening, whatever, okay, I think that you have to think of it almost with the same level of excitement as when you signed the lease. Do you remember that moment when you signed the lease and you were going to open the store and you were all excited about having the store open? That's what we need to do now. We need to be that level of excited right now, okay? So get pumped up, get excited about what your store is and what it does. I'll talk more about this in a minute, but you know what? You guys as independent retailers are the pillars of your community, and you're one of the few things that will be open right now, right? Certainly in most areas of the country, bars are not open, indoor dining is a little sketchy. People are not going to museums because they really kind of can't. They don't want to go to big, you know, concert halls or sporting events, that kind of thing. It's questionable about schools. I know all that, okay? But the one place they can go is independent retail. So you know what? You have an advantage right now to actually pick up some market share and get some people excited about coming to your store. But what you have to do is you have to basically promote it the right way. We're going to talk about that. But stay safe, get others to stay safe, and promote that you're doing exactly that. You know, the stores that opened early, some of them, as shocking as it was to me, opened and they were like, yeah, we're not really enforcing the mask thing. California. Some people made fun of me about wearing a mask, so I didn't wear it, and those are the places that the numbers are going the wrong way, and they're having to work really hard to turn it around in places like Florida and Texas, right? So, and even here in California, although, I was happy to see on Monday, if you didn't see it, there was a press release that at least in LA County, we're starting to do a little bit better. I think people actually got the idea that, if you wear the mask and you social distance, that we have a chance to sort of maybe knock this thing down. And so our numbers are starting to flatten again. So we're really excited about that. They're still way too high, and we still have a ways to go. But at least they're getting a little bit better, okay? Don't get drawn into the negativity. This is the weirdest, most political, most socially strange moment in history between all of the conspiracy theories on both sides of the issue, the politics on both sides of the issue. It's just madness, isn't it? I mean, scroll Facebook for 7 seconds, and you will see some of the strangest things you've ever seen. So, it's funny. I was talking to one of my clients who is a health and wellness store, and she actually had a very interesting thing to say. She said, she compared this time with the pandemic that happened in 1918, and the major difference is social media. In 1918, there wasn't social media, there was just a newspaper. And so people basically got their information that way. Now, anybody who's got 2 fingers can type all kinds of stuff in there, right? So if you're worried right now, or if you're worried about your store's future, you're worried about your ability to produce income, you're worried about what's happening right now, the antidote to worry always is an action plan. The antidote to feeling bad about right now is an action plan. What are we going to do? I'm going to try and equip you with an action plan today, okay, that I see is working in other retail stores. And, we work with retail stores in 16 countries. And so I'm seeing all kinds of things happen with this thing. And what I'm going to share with you today is the greatest hits of the people that are actually succeeding right now, okay? That said, Retail Smart Guys is here to help you. This is a very unusual time, so we're taking this in a very unusual way. I want you to stay connected to us. I want you to continue to tune into what we're doing and also what WEV is doing, because there's a lot of great information that's out there right now that you are going to need to keep your store moving forward, okay? All right, here we go. So what do you got to do? Okay, we're going to go through these areas. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about floor layout. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you create demand. I'm going to talk about the new paradigm for selling. We'll talk about staffing. I'm definitely going to talk about merchandise flow because that's kind of everything. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the financial ramifications of all this and some things you need to do there. Okay, let me start with the store appearance stuff because I think it's hugely important. Okay, I'm going to start with the front of the store. Okay, now, as people are making their way back out, and there's varying degrees of making their way back out in and around the country, right? Some people are going out, they're not going out, that kind of stuff. Okay, as they start to make their way back into the world, okay. When you think about your storefront, think about it as if you have never thought about it before, okay? Now, there's lots of people that are already incorporating the rainbow signage, which has sort of become like the icon for surviving this virus, okay? But I think what you want to promote is that you're back, that you're safe, okay? And you want to put up signage that talks about being safe and that you're going to, you have to wear a mask and stuff like that. And depending on where you are in the world, there's different governments that have different regulations about wearing the masks and stuff like that. But the main thing you want to talk about is that you're clean, you're safe, you're friendly, and that you're fun. Okay? Clean, safe, friendly, and fun. Because here's the thing. If you're an independent retailer, okay, or if I'm a shopper and I'm thinking about where am I going to buy stuff, okay, I am more likely to believe that you, as an independent retailer, are going to do a better job of cleaning the store that you live in and love than someone who's a worker at a big box store. Okay, so you have to continue to promote that and talk about that and show that. Okay, I also think your windows in the front need to change pretty often now, at least weekly. And the reason I say that is because people may go by your store wherever you are, okay, and maybe they didn't go in the first time, but if they see that your windows are changing, if they see there's activity there, they're more likely to walk in now. Okay, they're going to be more nervous about places that seem to be stagnant or not doing anything. So the more you change your windows, show that you're clean, safe, fun, that you have great merchandise to offer them, and that you're here and part of the community and part of the road back from this nightmare. That's something that they're all going to want to look at. So really rethink your windows now. Okay, and change them a lot. Make sure they're clean. Make sure you're talking about how fun it is to be in there. Invite them back in. Okay, and do that regularly, because if I've driven up the street, a couple of times over the last few weeks, and I see that your windows are changing, it means something's happening there, and I need to be there. Okay, when they first walk in the store, the first 5 to 15 feet is called the decompression zone. Okay, by the way, I didn't coin that phrase. There's a group called Kaiser and Bender, and I'm going to give you a little shout out to them in a little bit. They're the ones that came up with that, okay, the decompression zone. It's kind of like you walked in the door, and you're like, okay, I'm in, okay? From that vantage point, okay, when they first walk into the store, okay, we need signage that welcomes them and makes them feel safe, okay? And they need to be able to see the panorama of the store and see where they want to go, okay? Now, you're still going to guide them through where you want them to be inside the store, okay? And you've got to do it now with some of these, social distancing considerations in mind as you do this, okay? But you want to kind of give them a view of the store so they kind of think about where they want to go. What I'm hearing now from a lot of people is that when shoppers arrive, they're not lingering. They're coming, they're buying, and they're going. That said, by the way, the units per transaction and average dollar sale is a lot different than it was before. I mean, people are coming in and they're buying more now in single visits. So there's definitely some potential there. Okay, but you've got to lay out your store well so they can do that well. And make all that happen, okay? And as I think many of you know, when people walk into a store, the first thing they do is turn right. I don't know why that is, but it's been true for years and years and years. So the immediate right is probably some of the most important real estate you have in terms of you want to put the stuff that you really need to move through and sell, the stuff that shows off your store best, the stuff that's going to get your shoppers excited, better displays, and that kind of thing, okay? And now, while they're in the store, you do want to make sure that they're following some social distancing rules, right? So, put them on the path. Near me, grocery stores now have done that, okay, where when you walk into the grocery store, you can't just wander around and go, okay, I want to get the ice cream, and then I want to get bread, and then I want to get a couple of pieces of fruit, right? It doesn't work that way now. Now they put you on a path, and every aisle is a one-way direction, so you kind of snake your way through the store, and if you kind of went through and, oh, God, I forgot to get some celery, okay, you have to actually go all the way through the store and come back through again to get the celery, okay? So you want to keep them socially distanced, and you want to make sure that you're showing that your store is safe, because it's going to make them more confident in being in your store, and also make them confident in coming back, okay? Now, when you remind them about social distancing, okay, it does not have to be this grave, serious, weird message. So here's a great example, okay? I have here's two examples I'll give you. One is a Western store I have, okay? And the Western store said, instead of saying you have to be 6 feet apart, that kind of thing, they said there's got to be a cow's difference between us, okay? Fits within their genre, fits who they are, and it's a cute, funny way of saying, hey, listen, let's stay separated, okay? For one of my women's fashion stores, they said, if you can read my designer label, you're too close. It's stuff like that that you can do to make it fun and remind them of how far apart they need to be without making it an awful, serious, crazy thing, okay? It helps to put some decals on the floor so they kind of see where that's at, especially during the register. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And if you've got audio on the store, you can do some frequent, friendly reminder messages about staying socially distant, okay? Look, there are people that are definitely going to be weird about, this is all a hoax and blah, blah, blah. You've heard a lot of that kind of stuff. One of the best responses I've heard to that has been, look, I'm doing this because I'm doing it out of respect. I'm doing it out of respect for my staff that have come into work in the midst of all of this. I'm doing it out of respect for my other customers who might actually have some health issues. I'm doing it out of respect for you to make sure that whether you believe it or not, it's not a bad thing for us to apply these things and keep safe, okay? Now, displays have a bigger role than they've ever had. Why? Because the days of you being able to walk up and tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, how can I help you, and that kind of stuff are not happening right now, right? So each of these displays have to be even more effective than they were before, right? So, I mean, we always used to refer to them as the silent salesperson, but now they're the not so quiet silent salesperson, right? So your displays need to be interesting. They need to be cross-merchandised. They need to constantly change. They need to have props in them. They need to make the stuff look really, really interesting. And as you think about your store and you put them on the path, right? When they walk in, what's the first display I want them to see? And once they've been to that display, where are they going from there, right? So it's a constant like moving them through what do they want to see next, what do they want to see next, okay? So really look at your displays in a newly, as if you've never looked at them before. How can I change them up? How can I cross-merchandise? What do I want on there? What do I want my customers to see? What do I want them to think about the store? Okay, how do I make it more compelling, interesting, and fun, and have the display do the selling, because I can't be as close to them as I once was, okay? So walk the floor, okay, and create these speed bumps of merchandise where people have to stop, okay? Bundle stuff, cross-merchandise, okay? Make those displays beautiful. Really light them well, okay? I'm finding that people who have taken a little bit more time to rethink how the display is lit are seeing better selling now, okay? Again, because we're having to rely on the display itself, okay? That said, you know, while you want to have these speed bumps in places that people can stop, you also have to have it set up in such a way that people can get around that, okay, and on to the next thing, okay? And where do I want them to go from here? After they've been through this speed bump, what's the next one? Okay? And let's also watch out for anything that might stop them from buying. Stacked too high, the merchandise is too deep, it's too hard to get to, that kind of stuff. You want to make sure that it's really easily reachable, easily shoppable, stuff can easily be grabbed, because, you know, they're not going to come to you and ask you to pull stuff out for them now. Okay? Signage is more important than it has been for a while. Now, I will say this, okay? In the past, I've had to do some presentations about millennials. Okay, when I spoke at Magic I speak at Magic every year when there was Magic. You know, I mean, it'll be digital Magic now, and we'll do something there. But I speak at a lot of trade shows, and one time the folks at Magic asked me to do a presentation about millennials, and I was like, really, seriously, millennials? Is that the topic? You know. But I learned a lot about them, and what I learned is that, you know, signage is important. Folks that are shopping that are in that particular age group, they want to do research. They want to see what's there. Now, if I'm not going to be close to people anymore, okay, the signage has to do the selling for us, okay, and so there's a couple signs. One is storyteller signs, okay, and storyteller signs are signs that are things that kind of create some selling language for you, okay? The things like, imagine how excited your kids are going to be when they see this backpack. Imagine how much more comfortable you're going to be in these shoes. Imagine whatever, okay? That kind of thing. Like that kind of puts a little bit more of the creativity in there, right? The other one is product selling signs, which is just features, because you're not going to be close enough really to talk a lot about that, right? So those two signs in combination are important, okay? And I think they've got to be in the style and in the genre of your store. You don't want handwritten signs. You don't want cheesy looking signs. They need to be within the motif and the color story of what your store is, okay? In terms of font, this is an interesting thing I learned from Kaiser and Bender. You take whatever you think about who your average customer is, okay? So let's just say your average customer is between, I don't know, 30 and 50, okay? You take the upper band of that, so 50, divide it by 2, and that's the minimum font size that the sign needs to be, okay? Kind of an easy way to sort of figure that out. You don't want tiny signs that people are going to ignore. You don't want them so big that you can't get the message across and there's not enough room on there. So take your upper brand there and make all that happen, okay? And again, you can sprinkle in some of the safety signs about reminding them about social distancing and wearing their masks and stuff like that, but don't make it serious. Make it fun. Don't turn it, there's lots of like, you'll see lots of signage out there in other places where it's like, you cannot enter if you're this, you do not enter this, you may not do this, or we do not allow that kind of stuff. It's a lot of negativity, isn't it? So rather than keeping it all negative like that, okay, let's find a play to make fun with it, okay? People respond to having a sense of humor. People respond to people being fun. People respond to people who are not doing it. One of my stores that's doing it better than anybody right now, okay? Her sales are way up from last year, believe it or not, okay? And I said to her, I said, wow, your sales are just through the, what is going on there? She's just like, look, we are the ray of sunshine amongst this disaster. We are just not buying into the negativity. We're not talking about how bad the virus is, how sad it is, who we know who has it, how serious it is, the hospitals. We're not going into any of that. We are being a place that is just an escape, a place to have fun, a place to enjoy some shopping, a place to get a little retail therapy going, and we're just fun, and we're here for people. Okay, so keep that in mind as you think about all of this stuff. How do you make your store the ray of sunshine, the respite from this disaster, okay? The one place they can go and have a good time and really enjoy themselves, okay? Your cash wrap is another area that's probably getting a lot of attention. A lot of people are doing that plexiglass thing. If you can, that's great. If not, you just have to make a big ceremony out of showing the fact that you are clearing out and cleaning all of the stuff that's near there between customers so that everybody feels safe, okay? You can put markers on the floor so that people understand, you know, how far apart 6 feet is, okay? And honestly, I would actually do it more like 8 or 10 feet apart. And the reason is that someone you know will turn to you and say, well, this isn't 6 feet. I know what 6 feet is. That's not, you know, you want to avoid that. And you want to avoid that just by kind of going, look, you know what, here, it's 8 feet, just, you know, we'll be done, or 10 feet, okay? Now, if I have to establish sort of a line, a cue by which they're going to stand on line to ring stuff up with, right? Well, Lord knows it's the time for add-on selling, you know? I mean, look, you guys have all been to the grocery stores, and you know that like when after you've been shopping for 2 hours, they put as much candy and snacks at the register as they possibly can because you've been thinking about food for 2 hours. So you're starving now, and they know they can get you and get that add-on going there. Let's get some good add-on merchandise going on right there, okay? Really rethink that. Again, as if you have never looked at it before, newly. What does that look like? What can we put there, okay? How can we get more add-on stuff, okay? And certainly, if you can put some contactless payment methods there, Venmo, PayPal, Apple Pay, those kinds of things. If you're, you know, more and more I'm seeing credit card processors are allowing that. That will make people feel comfortable also, okay? And again, I think it's just, you know, stay safe, keep them safe, let them see that you're being safe, that kind of stuff. Don't make it draconian, don't make it awful, don't make it weird. Just make it fun and make it interesting and make it safe, but keep it fun. Okay? So again, I want to give my thanks to Kaiser and Bender, and here's their information. These are guys that are really experts in the world of store layout and that kind of thing. So if you are interested in finding out more, I encourage you to reach out to them. They know that stuff pretty well. And here's a bunch of different ways that you can get a hold of them. Okay, Kaiser and Bender, and they're good people. They're good friends of ours, and they really, really do have a good understanding. And I will be honest with you, a lot of stuff I just gave you, I kind of lifted from them. Okay, so there you go. Okay, you know, I want to be honest with you. All right, all right. I want to talk about your merchandise right now, though, because that to me is one of the more important things ever. Okay, is the merchandise. Okay. Merchandise is the thing you spend the most money on, right? It is your biggest expense. It is your biggest asset. It can also be your biggest liability if it's wrong. Okay, so here at Retail Smart Guys, we spend most of our time talking about merchandise and merchandise flow and open to buy and what are you going to spend and how does it look and that kind of stuff. And we spend a lot of time curating and manicuring retail assortments, and that's so critical now. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that one. To get you through this thing, but your merchandise and your merchandise flow is everything, and it's the you know, because it's your biggest expense, and because it's your best asset, we also call it a high risk asset, right? Because it's if it's great, it's great. If it's bad, it's bad, right? So and bad inventory has to be identified and pushed through quickly, and great inventory has to be watched and curated and understood why it happens that way and that sort of thing. Okay, so as we think about merchandise here. Right now is a good time to stop and look at your inventory, okay? Do you have stuff that's kind of coming out of season? I mean, the crazy thing about, what happened is like, people landed a lot of goods for spring in February or in March, that kind of thing, and then bam, we all got shut down. So spring kind of got a little bit extended, okay? That said, okay, you have to really take a look at the age of the inventory that you have right now. And if you've got old inventory, man, you want to be out of that fast. Old inventory is tying up your dollars, and it has a bunch of erosive effects on your store. The first one is, well, certainly it's tying up cash. Okay, not only do you have money in there, okay, that you could be using to spend other places and to do better marketing maybe, or change your floor up, or hire someone you want to hire, or pay yourself better, or that kind of stuff. Not only is it erosive there, but keep this in mind too. If you have old inventory in there, okay, you're paying tax on that. Did you know that? You're paying tax on your old inventory. So the sooner you get out of that, the better. I mean, on top of that, by the way, I mean, it has erosive effects in terms of your marketing, right? If your customers see old inventory on the floor, they kind of go, well, you know what? I've been there, seen what they have. I don't need to go back again, right? If your customer comes this month and sees what they saw last month, they're not coming next month. So your inventory needs to move quickly, okay? Besides that, by the way, I know it's just as a buyer, it's just disheartening to look at the same stuff all the time. It actually starts to turn into wallpaper, doesn't it, right? So identify your oldest stuff, get that cleared fast, get out of it no matter what it takes, and use those dollars to buy something new, fresh, exciting, and fun, okay? Now, I mentioned this at the top of the webinar. I'm going to mention it again right now. Turn is king right now, okay? You have to turn at least 1.5 to 2 turns faster than you're probably used to turning, okay? Turning is how you generate faster profit, okay? Turning is how you keep yourself in cash. And look, you know, if the virus wasn't enough, if the pandemic wasn't enough, okay, there's all kinds of talk about even if we cured it today, even if they said, hey, we got the vaccine and guess what, it works for everybody and everybody should take it and we take it and we knock this thing out, we all go back to normal life, there are still going to be economic ramifications of what happened, right? There's still going to be issues there's still going to be issues. I'm sorry, I'm working from home and we have a puppy, and if a dog walks on the street anywhere near us, it's a disaster. So, sorry about that. Anyway, so there's going to be ramifications beyond even the curing of the virus, okay? The ramifications are going to include whether or not economically people bounce back or not. What do their jobs look like? You know, that kind of thing. So, if you're worried about your sales, okay, the way to get through it is to turn faster and keep you in more cash than having a lot of old inventory laying around. So we're definitely turning fast for that reason. I mean, on top of this, it's also an election year. And for those of you that have been in business for a while now, you know that people get weird during the election, right? There's a moment where people go like, if candidate X doesn't get elected, that's it. It's over. The earth is going to leave its orbit and go screaming towards the sun. Do you know what I mean? So they freak out for that moment in time, and then a couple of weeks later they come back. But it gets very tricky during an election year to make all that happen. So you have to turn faster right now. You've got to come up with a plan to make all that happen. Now, one of the other things that we're telling people to look at is something called the vendor scorecard. And because I don't really have a lot of time here today, I don't really have a chunk of time to spend a lot of time on it. But I'm happy to send you a vendor scorecard. And I want to see if I can maybe get to, I'm just going to crack it open really quickly here. Hang on one second. I should have probably opened this before. Hang on. All right, we'll do it this way. Here we go. So I'm going to send you guys this vendor scorecard as part of what this whole thing is. But the vendor scorecard has everything to do with, am I selling, okay, what did I get from this particular vendor? And what was my initial markup? What was I hoping to get? What did I sell? And what am I left with? Okay? Right now, you need to spend some time evaluating who your best vendors are, and you really need to eliminate the vendors that are not doing business with you. Okay? Very, very critical. Okay? If I get down to the bottom of this one, there's this cash margin thing I'm going to talk about in a minute. But basically, what it's basically saying is, you know, I bought goods from this vendor. I spent, just to give you this so you can see it, but you'll see it when you get the actual document, right? I spent almost $8,000 at cost, hoping for $17,400 at retail, or initial markup of 54%. right? That's what my plan was. That's what I purchased. Okay. What actually happened? Well, I sold 11 at retail. Okay, 63 at cost, and I still have all this left over. Okay, so my planned margin was 94.71, and the math is here, right? It's that minus that. Okay, what actually happened? Well, from a cash perspective, okay, I brought in 11,446 from customers, right? They either gave me cash or credit cards of that. That's my sales, but I still wrote checks to the vendor of 79.45, so my actual cash was 35.01. I'm short almost $6,000. Okay. Now you use that to sort of figure out which vendors are producing the most cash for you, which ones aren't. Okay. And you use it to negotiate with those vendors. Hey, I'm short $6,000. What can we do about this? Okay. I could do a whole webinar just on this one piece alone. So rather than tie up the rest of the time today on that, if you're interested in this, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about it. Happy to help you figure this thing out. But this whole thing about cash margin is kind of everything. Okay. So look at your vendor scorecards for sure. Okay. I think this is where I was. Okay. So we'll start from here. From current slide. There we go. Okay. Now, this is not the time for big markdowns, by the way. This is not the time to do like the whole source 30 off or 40 off, okay? It doesn't work. You can't do a doorbuster sale right now. You just can't, because people aren't going to come in for that anyway, okay? The best thing you can do is continue to market that you're safe, that you're clean, that you're fun, that it's a great time to be at the store, and when they get there, you can, inside the store, have inside store specials that they didn't know about, okay? But I wouldn't do blanket markdowns right now. That's not the reason why people are buying. Okay, I would try to bundle a bunch of merchandise in the store. Okay, and I want to figure out how we can turn faster, move product faster. So bundling sometimes helps on that. And I want to do some targeted promotions. And I want to work close with those vendors. I'm trying to avoid the pack and hold, right? Where you kind of take, okay, well, I got all this spring merchandise, then I'm going to wait till next spring to do it. Just get out of the goods, okay? A, you need the cash. B, no matter what you do to make that stuff work well in the world of pack and hold, it just, when it comes out next year, it still looks like last year's goods, okay? So mark it down, get your cash out of it, buy stuff that's more relevant now, move on to the next thing, okay? This is the time for buy now, wear now. Lots and lots of conversation about that, okay? So as you talk to your vendors, okay, and hopefully a lot of you right now are really controlling the flow of merchandise from your vendors, this is an important time to ask them, are they really going to be producing for fall, and where do they really stand? And you have to ask a lot of questions about that, okay? I really think this is the time to figure that one out, okay? Because vendors definitely went through some shutdown stuff, and I'm hearing all kinds of things in all kinds of industries about vendors not being able to deliver, okay? So you want to ask not just, is my order okay? Ask more questions than that even, things like, where do you source your goods from? What do you have, is your warehouse full right now, okay? Are you on time with production for fall? Are you on time with production for holiday? Those kinds of things, okay? For right now, I would tell you this, that, what I'm hearing from most of my retailers is that everything's negotiable. So if you've got outstanding balances, negotiate those. Negotiate terms and negotiate some discounts there. Remember, you've lost a certain number of weeks of the season. You're not getting those back. You're not getting those back. So you're going to have to take some bigger markdowns to get out some of that stuff, and they should participate in those markdowns or sales contests or credits towards invoices or credits towards future buys. This is the time to sort of forget what you already know and negotiate from the start. And by the way, I would also tell you that if there were vendors that you wanted to have in your store that you never had in your store before, okay, they're more open to that now than they've ever been. Okay. So there you go. I would tell you that, if there's a vendor that you wanted in your store and they say we can't ship you, I'd reach out to them now and say, hey, I'm still here. Want to ship me? I'm here. Okay. I talked about cash margin in the vendor scorecard. Here's another math example. You buy goods at $2,000. You want to put them out for $5,000. So that means you're planning to get $3,000 of margin out of that, right? But you only sell $37.50. Okay. So your actual cash margin, okay, is actually $17.50 because you spent $2,000, you sold $37.50. Your cash margin is $17.50. I'm going fast because I'm running a little bit late. I apologize. If this is confusing to you, reach out to me. But cash margin is one of the most important stats for you to look at as a retailer. Okay, it is a measure of whether or not your profitability is there. And I'll just say this: have you ever had this experience where your accountant does your taxes for you, and they say, "Well, you have a great year. You did all this, you did that, and your sales were this, and your expenses were that. So you owe $25,000 in taxes," and you go, "Well, yeah, except that money's not in my checking account. Where is that?" Typically, it's all over your selling floor. So cash margin is the way to actually make sure that you've cashed out of your goods. It's a critically important stat. Study this one carefully. If you're confused, please reach out to me, okay? Like I said, I think the seasons are going to switch around. I think spring's going to get extended. Markdowns are mostly not happening until late this month, okay? It used to be that, a lot of people went on sale in July. They're not really going on sale until August, okay? I think that means fall's going to be a shorter season. So once again, turn is going to be king. As you look at what you're landing for fall, do you have a sales forecast that really plans that out so that you actually are out of fall fast and into holiday? I still believe we're going to have a good holiday. I think what's going to happen in holiday is that people are going to go, you know what, after this brutal year between the virus and the shutdowns and the killer hornets and the election and all this other stuff that's going on, I want to have a good holiday. I want to have a good Christmas. I want to have a good Hanukkah. I want to have a good Kwanzaa. I want to have a good Festivus, whatever it is that they're celebrating. They want to have a good one, So I still think holiday is going to be good this year, okay? So turn is king and cash margin is king. So, again, when you look at fall and holiday, are your vendors able to send you goods? Are they getting stuff from China? Are they getting stuff from Italy where things got kind of crushed, okay? Are you lean and mean for fall, okay? And again, do you have opportunities with vendors, okay? Really rethink your assortment right now. Use those vendor scorecards to evaluate your vendors and get your assortments down and get your turns where they need to be. I can't emphasize it enough. It's the most important thing I'm going to tell you today. In fact, this next slide says it's the most important slide of today, and it's that you need a plan for what you're going to sell that's achievable, that also considers your what your expenses look like, so that we have a sales plan that enables us to hit our expenses for sure, okay? And it's got to keep you nimble. It's got to keep you watching for changes. It's got to be able to change a lot, but you need a solid sales plan, and you need an inventory plan that looks at what your ending inventory is going to be. That's going to mean everything to your survival for this year, okay? So the core functionality of profitable retailing, the separation between good retailing and great retailing, is this: targeting your ending inventory. It's not about what can I sell, it's about where am I going to finish. And you have to have a sales plan and an inventory plan that gives you a finishing inventory that enables you to cash out and have enough cash to cover your expenses plus buy into the next season, okay? It is the core of everything. And now, in this moment in time, when every sale is precious and every customer that crosses your threshold is critical, okay? While all of that's happening, this is the time where that's most important, okay? So you got to keep that in mind. All right. If you don't have an open to buy plan, if you don't have a way to do it, and you want to talk about that, I'm happy to help you at no cost, frankly. I just want to figure out how to help you with this whole thing, okay? At least map out what you're going to do here, okay? That's part of my contribution to today's webinar. But I really want you to think about this, okay? Inventory is your biggest expense. It's your biggest asset. It is the driver of cash flow. And to the degree that you manage that well and really get involved in that is to the degree that you're going to get this thing going, okay? So please, please, please keep that in mind, okay? I know I went a little crazy on you there. I know I did, but you know what? I'm passionate about this because I know it's the route through all of this. And when I started Retail Smart Guys, by the way, in 2007, in the midst of the worst economic crisis previously to this, okay? And during that whole recession thing, right? What I discovered was that the stores that made it through figured out how to do that. So that's going to be critical now more than ever. Okay? All right, let's talk a little bit about some marketing, okay? I know you guys are all fascinated by marketing and that kind of stuff. And I want to tell you that marketing is sort of critical to everything, okay? This is the thing, all right? Marketing, I've been to 1 million seminars, okay, about marketing. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go back. Okay. So if you thought marketing had to be intense before, okay, what's happening now in terms of social media is that the whole world shifted to an e-commerce platform. The whole world shifted towards selling online or trying to sell through Instagram or Facebook or comments sold or those kinds of things, right? So the traffic, the volume of stuff that's online is even bigger than it was before. Now, through all of that, the more important thing is this, okay? You have to match the volume that's out there, but if there is one sentence that defines what marketing is that I want you to think about, it's this. Marketing is 2 words. It is creating demand. Creating demand. That's what it is. Okay. So everything that you post, everything that you send out, everything that you think about before you hit the send button, the post button, the upload button, whatever it is, the thing you have to ask yourself is this going to create demand? Does this make my customer want to come and see me, want to go to my website, want to come to an event I'm doing online or in the store? Do they want to know more about me as a result of this? Does it create demand? Now, as much as social media is important, the still biggest driver of sales at retail is email. Not just because I can tell you that, although I can because I watch that very carefully, okay? The NRF says that, National Retail Federation, the Direct Marketing Association of America says that email, more than anything else, drives sales. So if you're not emailing at least twice a week, you're missing out. Maybe 3 times a week. I can tell you that in the time we've all been on this webinar together, Nordstrom's has probably emailed me 3 times. And the only reason that that your emails are getting you into any trouble would be if your unsubscribe rate goes above 2%. Okay? If it doesn't go above 2%, you're okay. But and again, you know, this is where people are really buying, is in email marketing, even more than social media. It doesn't mean you can't do social media. You have to do it. You have to be part of that. You have to be part of all of that, right? Because that's where people are looking at things too. But email drives sales. Okay. So again, what's the message? Okay. It's not about discounting. It's not about anything other than being safe, fun, and the amazing, incredible product that you have. It's about returning us to some level of normal. It's about getting us back to where we once were. And it's also certainly about supporting local retail. There is lots and lots of business I'm seeing that's being done because people want stores that are in their neighborhood to be there. And again, you guys are the pillars of the community. You're very, very important to what they do. You're very, very important to rebuilding the community and getting us back from where we were in terms of all this shutdown. Okay? And it's certainly about buy now, wear now. That's all stuff that's critically important. But supporting local retail and about being safe and fun and having an incredible product is what your marketing needs to be. So, you know what? If you did a bunch of video and a bunch of video was literally you, like at the store, safe, cleaning, and showing an amazing product and being cheerful and inviting them in from the storm to enjoy something at the store, that's working. I can tell you that's what's working. I can tell you that level of energy is what's getting people into the stores. So, even in the hardest of days, when things are going super weird and stuff like that, you have to think about this slide. You have to think about being positive, being fun, the incredible product that you have, and that you're part of the community. Okay? So I think the message is welcome back, my long lost friend. Glad to see you. Hope everybody's okay. We're still here. We're still your favorite store. We're keeping it safe. And it's been nuts, but let's have some fun now. That to me is the message right now. And as much of that as you can do, the better. Okay, and here's the thing about marketing. It's also about constancy of message and consistency of message. So you can't just send that out once and think, well, it didn't work, that kind of thing. You have to send it out multiple times, right? Think about how many emails you get in a day. You've got to continually promote that and talk about that over and over and over again so that people get the excitement and the fun and the interest in that. Okay, so I think you email 2 or 3 times a week. You got to post on social media multiple times a day. I'm a big believer in video. You know, maybe some of you know this, but just in case you don't, the #1 search engine, of course, is Google. The #2 search engine on planet Earth is YouTube. So if you haven't done so, create a YouTube channel for your store. Make sure that all your videos are up there. Make sure they're properly hashtagged. Okay, make sure you have a strong video presence. Okay, again, showing that you're safe and you're friendly and you're fun. Learn about hashtags. I could do a whole webinar just on hashtags, by the way, but hashtags are how you get new followers, how you get new page likes, that kind of stuff. It's very critical to your marketing. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about selling, because it's different now, okay? When your customers arrive, some are going to be scared, okay? Got to be warm, gentle, friendly, get them in there. Some are going to be too brave. I don't need to wear no damn mask. You've seen a lot of that kind of stuff out there, okay? Be happy to see them, but be distant, be safe, and get them to be safe also. Try not to talk about the virus. I realize that's probably an important thing, right? But you don't want to dwell on that as much as possible. You want to talk about what's next. Are you headed back to work? How are you working now? What's happening with your kids? What's going on in your neighborhood? Here's some new stuff we got in. You got to keep it about the future, not about the past, as much as you can. Okay? So I coined this phrase early on in the pandemic. I wish I had trademarked it, but social distancing is not emotional distancing. Okay, that means that you can still be emotional there. People are talking about things like, smiling while you have your mask on, that you smile through your eyes. I think that's important. So you can still be warm and friendly and welcoming, and your signage can do some of that for you. Okay, and your greeting when people walk into the store has to be even more powerful now because we're further away and we're wearing masks. So, we've got to make that happen, and I want you to think about this definition of manners because I think it's a great one, okay? This definition of manners to me is the best one ever, and it is making the other person feel more important. So think about that as you bring people into the store, okay? How do I make them feel more important? Okay? That's part of your greeting. It's part of how you treat people. It's part of what they see when they come in the door, that kind of stuff, okay? Certainly, we have to be careful about fitting rooms and trying things on and stuff like that. There's lots of talk about people steaming stuff. There's lots of talk about, when someone tries something on, maybe you pull it off the floor and you don't put it on for a day, put it back out there for a day because you steam it. Different people are doing that different ways. I think the more you make a big deal about how you're cleaning it on the floor actually helps your marketing. So I would do a lot of that. Okay. I would clean the stuff a lot, make sure that happens. I've got people that are very demo centric in terms of I've got some toy stores and well, how do we sell while the toys thing's happening? They actually created a little area where people can go in and sign up to go in there and play with some toys, then they clean it up and the next kid can go in there. Okay, so it's a different approach now. Okay, it's more about being safe and fun and clean and that kind of stuff, and trying to maintain some closeness from being far away. It takes some practice, and we're still learning some things about that. But I think again, you warm it up, you keep it friendly, you keep it fun. Lots of signage, rules that are not too horrible, but actually show that you're being safe. Okay. I talked a little bit about this. There's limitations on trying things on. I think in the fitting rooms, by the way, like sometimes have you ever been in a hotel and they've got a log there of how many times the elevator has been inspected, stuff like that? Maybe do that in your fitting room. Show how many times you're cleaning the fitting rooms so they feel safe about being in there. Okay. In the footwear world, I've seen actually people put up these big plexiglass shields so that they can roll the shield up next to the person, and then the foot goes underneath the shield so we can help them try stuff on. Okay, we're gonna have to watch, we're gonna have to learn, we're gonna have to adapt. Okay, all right. I think alternative selling is going to continue. So if you haven't figured out how to do curbside pickup, if you're not into e-commerce yet, find ways to do it. Okay. Lots of my customers are selling through Instagram and Facebook live events. They're using something called Comment Sold, so look for that. CommentSold.com is a great way if you don't have an e-commerce presence. Okay, your e-commerce marketing has to get more aggressive than it was before. Okay, and certainly appointment selling is great. I will tell you this: that if you are doing appointment selling, what people are finding is if I've made an appointment to come to your store, if I say I'll be there at 11, okay, you're pretty much guaranteed I'm going to buy something. It's a little bit like going to Disneyland and not going on the rides. If I make an appointment, unless it's really, really bad, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to buy if I made an appointment. Is the main thing. So I encourage appointment selling a lot, and I certainly encourage delivery if you can do it. But all these are alternatives to just being brick and mortar. Okay, and I think they're still super important. Okay, let's talk about your staff for a moment here. Okay. Now, by the way, a lot of this stuff comes from this group called Management One. We're an affiliate of Management One, and they've got this great thing called the Retail Recovery Playbook. And here's a link to that, and a link to some stuff they have. They've got a seminar series they're doing right now. They're doing a 6-part webinar series that I endorse. I think it's really, really great. I will send you this playbook as part of today's presentation. A lot of good information in there too. Okay, so I want to thank my friends at Management One for their information as well. Okay, so if you've had trouble getting staff to come back, that may start to change now because the $600 addition to unemployment is ending, right? And there's still debate as to what's going to happen there. I don't even know where we're at right now with that today. There's still debates happening about all that stuff. Okay, so people that weren't willing to come back before are starting to be willing to come back now. But I think you have to really think about first what your real needs are along those lines, okay? So maybe your store hours are different than what they were. A lot of stores are not open as many hours as they were before, okay? And if you're socially distancing, you may not need as many staff. And also, as you bring in staff now, you might think more about incentivized plans more than just straight up salaries. That way, they're encouraged to sell, and you're not looking at big fixed costs, okay? But you got to figure out who is and who isn't in. And I think, honestly, there's going to be a bunch of people that now are going to start looking now that that incentive is over. And I think there's going to be some opportunities for you to find some better people. Also, some people that used to work for either larger organizations or big boxes. There's a bunch of sales reps that are on the street right now. There may be some opportunities to get to upgrade your staff. So be open to all of that. And, I've always been a fan of always keep looking. For people, okay? And they definitely need to be retrained on how do I sell from this far away, and how do I social distance, and how do we clean, and how do we demonstrate, and how are we showing customers, and how do we keep it positive? You may need to do some training with them to get that going, okay? To rethink how they're approaching customers and keep the negativity out of it for sure, okay? They have to be protected. You got to provide masks, got to be providing gloves. Some people providing booties, okay? Definitely hand sanitizer, okay? Got to rethink the opening and closing procedures that are happening, okay? And I think it's important to have them certify themselves that they are healthy. Now, you got to be careful about this. There's definitely going to be some legal ramifications here, but I believe that, doing the right things in terms of have they been tested, taking their temperature, that kind of stuff. What are they doing when they go home, that kind of stuff. I think that stuff is all stuff you have to start to do to make sure that you're staying safe and that your staff is staying safe, okay? And, there's so much misinformation and noise out there. I would just basically focus on the CDC. From my research, it's the cleanest statement of what's happening and the best way to look at it, okay? All right, lastly, we'll talk a little bit about finance. Okay, obviously cash is king, and that's why I talked about turn a lot, okay? I'm also going to send you some cash flow planning tools, okay, and some PPP planners. For those of you that got the PPP money, you want to make sure you've planned out how to do that. One of the things that I'm nervous about in terms of the PPP, I'll just tell you straight out right now, is the forgiveness thing, right? There were a lot of clients we saw that did not get PPP money because there was such a huge demand for it that there were certain banks that just shut them out, right? And if there was one hair out of place, they didn't get the PPP money. I actually had 2 customers who had a little bit of an unusual situation in their payroll, and the bank went, boom, that's it, we're out. Too hard to figure out because they had too much to process. I think when forgiveness times comes, you want to make sure you have that stuff dialed in, right? So I would definitely suggest you control that really, really well. I have another slide about that in a minute, but we do have a cash flow planner that we'll send out to you as part of this whole thing. Take a look at that, okay? If you haven't done so for both the PPP and if you got EIDL money, which is the next slide, I'm a big fan of either a separate checking account or a separate general ledger account so that you have a really fast way to prepare for your forgiveness presentation, okay? I don't know I don't know where the extension is going to go on this thing now. God only knows what's going to happen with this whole thing. We have to watch it. I think the next couple of days are going to be critical on that, okay? The EIDL is funding now, and sometimes you get messages that say we're working on it, and I think they're going to refill that one, by the way. So make sure you've registered for it. It's a sliding scale of funding in there. If you have a great SBA person, then that's working with you, great. If not, reach out to me. I have one for you that has actually helped a bunch of our clients that could not get PPP or EIDL funding. He got them funding. He knows the ropes. So if you need that, okay, let me know. I'm happy to help you with that. Okay. Again, this whole retail playbook thing is important. I want you to grab that from us. We'll send that out to you as part of this whole thing. Okay. So let me finish with this thing about it being a time for action. Okay. Here's my feeling. Okay. The short thing is you go through the sections in this, make your plans, figure out what your store layout looks like, look at your merchandise carefully, make sure you're turning, grab our playbooks, grab our checklists, grab everything you need to make sure this thing is right, get out of old inventory, turn fast, and make your marketing so that you are the ray of sunshine in amongst this whole thing, okay? I have a checklist I'm going to give you that will walk you through all of this stuff so you can do it quickly and easily, okay? But I want to tell you this, and this really is genuinely from my heart. I really believe this, okay? You know, every politician on planet Earth talks about the importance of small business, and they talk about how small business is the backbone of the economy. Okay, I believe you're not only the backbone of the economy, but as being the backbone of the economy, you're the backbone of society, right? So many people in these towns are looking to the independent retailer to get us through this. They're not counting on the Walmarts and the bigger retailers to get us through this. They're counting on you, the independent retailer, to make it happen. As to that degree, not only are you the backbone of society, I really believe you're the backbone of our humanity, okay? And the world's counting on you and us to bring us back to a happier place. So you can do this, okay? Your store is far more important than you've given credit for, okay? So you can make it through, but don't feel like you have to do it alone. The folks here at WEV are here to help you. We at Retail Smart Guys are here to help you, okay? This is a critical time in your business. You can make it through, but you need the right tools, the right advice, and the right information so that you are nimble, so that you are able to pivot and able to do this well. I believe in you, and I believe you can make it happen. Have the level of excitement to make that happen. Have the level of passion for your store to make it happen. Make it be what you want it to be, and it will be that. Okay? Reach out if you need help with that. Even if you just need a pep talk. Even if you just feel like, oh God, I have had nobody in for 5 hours and I am freaking out, okay? Reach out to me. Reach out to WEV. That's what we're here to help you with. Okay? By the way, I'm going to leave this stuff up here at the end. This is how you can get to me. That's my website. That's my cell phone number. And that's my email. In the midst of all of this stuff, we've been almost like an emergency room. We're open 24/7 now, honest to God. And so anybody who calls or needs help, that kind of thing, we can do it, okay? And one of the things that we're offering for free as part of this webinar is to do an inventory evaluation for you. So I've talked a lot about speeding up your turns and getting things going where they need to be. If you're not sure how to do that, if you need help with the vendor scorecard, that kind of stuff, reach out to me. I will do that with you for free to help you evaluate your inventory and see what we need to do to get you where you need to turn properly. Okay? All right, let me go back to the chat here and see if there's anything there I didn't cover. So hang on. Chat. Okay. All right, Alma, I tried to not say okay. I read your thing before. I did try to say okay less. My apologies. I'm zooming here a little bit because there's a lot to do it. Okay, but I do. Look, I just did it again. God, is that sad? Anyway, I do hope though that the information is helpful to you. All right. Now, this is being recorded, and I do have a bunch of stuff to do to share it with you. So we'll send that out through WEV. Okay. And I guess back over to you.
Well, I have questions. Dan, that was amazing. So amazing. And I'm so glad that A, we've recorded it, and B, that we'll have copies of the slides, because there was just a ton of information there. And I know that I will definitely be going back over it, and I'm sure everybody else will too. So I had a couple of questions. You mentioned a site called Comment Sold or Common Sold. I couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Commentsold.com.
Comment as in a comment that we make.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
What it is it's sort of a shortcut to if you don't have a full-on e-commerce thing, or if you haven't set up links through social media to sell product individually, it's a way for you to sell product without having to have all that stuff set up. It's kind of a shortcut to that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sounds good. Just check it out if you're curious. You also mentioned, and I was really gratified to hear this, that email is the key. And email is something that, you know, we can all do relatively easily, provided we have email addresses for our clients and potential market. If we don't have that, where do you suggest we try and gather those email addresses?
You know, it's got to be done organically. Do not buy email lists. They're always a disaster. I always tell people that when people come to the store, do not say to them, would you like to be on my email list? Because you're going to get a no there, right? It's a little bit like saying, listen, if I have extra trash, can I dump it on your front lawn? You know, it's like, that's not what you want to do, right? I think the way you do it is to stop calling it an email list and start calling it a VIP list. Do you want to be on our VIP? Because nobody wants to be on the email list, but everybody wants to be on the VIP list. So I would definitely do that. And, you know, sometimes it's good to do it through the assumptive close kind of thing, like, hey, what's your email? I got to get you on our email list. Just ask for it. Just ask for the email. What's your email? Don't assume that they're not going to give it. Assume that they have to. You know, that's a very important thing. You want to collect that organically. You don't want to try and buy a list from that.
Okay.
Now you can also cross promote with other people, right? So you could do like one of the things that some of our clients have done, if they're like a strip center, let's say. One of my clients was a men's store, and he was next to a Chinese food restaurant, and they did a cross promotion. So the men's store said, "Hey, for being such great clients of ours, we're giving you a free appetizer at the Chinese food restaurant next to us." And the Chinese food restaurant sent out an email, and they said, "Hey, for being such great clients, we're giving you a 10% discount off at this men's store." So they kind of used each other's lists to get people in. It worked really, really well.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity for collaboration. And I'll plug. We did a webinar on collaboration. You know, there's especially in some of the towns and cities around here, there are certain areas that retail is clustered in. You know, Funk Zone and La Arcada, and if you're in Santa Barbara. So yeah, that's a great idea to share the email list between and set up collaborative retail experiences.
Absolutely.
I would love it if other people had a chance for a question while we have Dan for these last few seconds. If not, then as you know, he's been so generous with his wisdom and availability. And Dan, thank you so much for that. I hope you don't get too inundated, but I know that people do need the support right now and your expertise. So again, a huge thank you to Dan for presenting this morning. Just phenomenally wise, rich, and informative webinar, and thank you. I believe next month our webinar is going to be around communication and confident communication, and that is a great pairing as well. You want to be able to communicate confidently with your clients, whichever format that is going to be in, so stay tuned for that. I will be sending out an email, it may be tomorrow morning by now, with the recording of this and any handouts and Dan's information, and also details of any future events. Please sign up on our website for the newsletter. But again, thank you to everybody for being here this morning, and thank you to Dan, and have a wonderful day. Go sell right now.
That's right. Keep it exciting, keep it fun. Thanks again, and thanks to WEV for letting me do this. I really appreciate it. And I'll be in touch. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Dan.
Bye-bye.